Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice Sunday morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. Nice and sunny outside, and there are a few things to be speaking about. Obviously, as we did say was likely, the short-term time frame is more or less sideways and boring. Got a little bit of the downside move that we're looking for, but the ranges are so damn tight that today I figured I would do something hopefully a little bit more on the fun side. And I just want to preface this whole video by saying, hey, what you're going to hear in this video is going to be a lot of hopium. I do think that Bitcoin is a lot more likely to trade to the downside than the upside right here, but I wanted to kind of challenge myself today during a rather boring and slow day to kind of look at the other side from what I'm leaning towards and kind of come up with the best case boo loss scenario, if you will. So with that in mind, if you do find this content valuable or entertaining, or if you just want to give back in a nice and free way, the easiest way to do that would be simply liking the video and maybe even leaving a comment as well. Even if it's just like comment for the algorithm, that's all good, man. Anyways, other than that, should shield the good old buy bit, as I'll be going with them to Monaco next month, which I'm really excited about. So if you want to go get wrecked with a deposit bonus, you can go check that out in the link in the description below, as I actually will give you another like 3,000 or 4,000 bucks alongside your deposit and all that good stuff. But hey, at the end of the day, man, look, if you're not already successful in trading, start off with a testing account, which they actually do offer. So I definitely want to commend them on that. But just jumping into a leverage exchange because they give you a deposit bonus if you do not have, your actual strategy set forwards in front of you, probably not going to end all that well. All right, sweet. So let's get into it right now. I want to start off first with what I think is a lot most likely to happen. It just basically comes down to this chart right here in the most simplistic form. Monthly MACD cross to the downside, monthly PMAR below the moving average, and monthly dancing right around that white 20 simple. Has all three times in the history of Bitcoin throughout the last 12 or 13 years now led towards a test down to the green 55 exponential moving average on this chart, as you can see right here. This iteration, and this iteration. Well, where does that essentially put Bitcoin down? Around about 25,000 bucks, obviously, and that would be initiated with the next sort of potential confirmation that we could have by at soonest by end of month, which would be below the white 20 simple right here, which is currently sitting just actually pretty much exactly where Bitcoin's at right now, about just above 40,000 bucks. Anyways, now that we got that out of the way, the more what I think is actually a lot more likely to happen probably in the next few months here, we can go down and I can come up with the best case Bullish Hopium scenario. Again, please understand, I think this is very unlikely to happen, but we'll offer up validations for what this would likely look like. Anyways, if I were to look at this through the bull goggles, if you will, what I'd be looking at right here, well, I'd go to CME chart because it's a little bit more lenient, I guess. And what do we see? We do see, hey, Bitcoin's coming back down. It's playing out a technical pullback. We're still operating on higher lows, and we still have this sort of reaccumulation formation in the works here with a high side of about 48,000 bucks. Bitcoin's last rally, and of course our rising bottoms here currently coming in just around about 39,000 bucks, and there's just another technical pullback into that, completely fine. And as long as Bitcoin is above this pivot right here, so this would be an invalidation for this like best case scenario hopium idea, would be below $38,000. That is to say, any sort of a higher term time frame closure below there, shit, even a medium term time frame closure below there, the hopium is just, the hopium is, at least in my opinion, just waiting for bounces alongside, I think generally the same areas that everyone's looking at, probably 34 to 35,000 bucks. Then you got 29 to 30, and then yeah, I would be looking all the way down somewhere between about 24 to 25, which is where I would think that things are most likely to stop. Anyways, in this case right here, what is kind of aligning with this? Well, if we go over to our stochastic momentum, you will notice on our daily and even some of our other higher term timeframes, we do see that stochastic momentum is extremely low right here. Now, just being low is actually not obviously a good signal in and of itself, but it does make it difficult for Bitcoin to get continuation to the downside more immediately. So it is relevant to say that Bitcoin could very easily bounce here. We do see a corrective signal, not just on daily stochastic momentum, but also on the daily HVP of stochastic momentum here, which is going for a more corrective phase, to be fair, but it remains with upside posture as long as Bitcoin is above 39,850, of course. Now, with that in mind, we can go look at the 2-day time frame, which is also coming all the way down here, even about to play out a trendline regression test at the edge of the bearish extreme zone, but we'll turn back up above about 43 for 25 in this case. And then I believe we've got the 3-day, which is still nosediving below 46,500. So we're just going to ignore that one because that one does not play into the analysis right now. And ultimately, if Bitcoin can remain above those pivots, especially in the short term, likely does bounce before anything else. But again, bounce not the same thing as a higher term time frame reversal here, of course. If we go over here to the 4-hour time frame, Let's go to regular spot price action. Kind of the same thing as what we were looking at for our LARP lines yesterday. A little bit of a basically just sideways here with a little bit of a test to the downside. I suspect that we're probably going to make another test to the downside here as well. But ultimately, what would I be looking at this from the Bullish goggles as? Well, in this case, I'd be looking at our indicators right here, and I'd say, hey, volatility on the lower term timeframes incredibly low. We're very likely looking at a move in the short term, probably by end of day today, around the time that CME opens, if I had to guess. And if that is going to be the case, I can go reference my short term timeframes, stochastic momentum over here, and judge where those sort of pivots are. We can see on the 6 hour, 40,550 is the upside pivot, and also rejection of the bearish control zone. 4 hour is pivoted around 40,300. Bitcoin's currently dancing around there right now. 3 hour is going to be pivoted at the exact same number, about 40,300, and hourly also 40,350. So if Bitcoin can start to close above those regions, I'd kind of be leaning towards another test of the upside of this first before anything else, that being around about 41,000 to 41,500. And any sort of a closure above there, we could actually see a bit of an avalanche of effects for at least a decent rally higher. I'd be looking somewhere between about 43. That being about 43,000 bucks, give or take about a couple $100 from that number. Very, very likely a short-term pullback from there. But ultimately, you will notice on this chart, I do have this area right here highlighted, the $44,000 region. Technically speaking, it's a little bit above there to be fair, but if Bitcoin can start to close dailies above there, again, keep in mind, first things first, we'd have to, at minimum, see a 4 hour closure above about 41, or a little bit above 41 really, and then I'd be looking for that move to 43. And then again, same thing, range resolution from 43, any sort of 4 hour closure above there, I would be looking for a move towards 44. It's more like actually 42.7 and 42.8 to be fair. But if we did see a daily closure above there, that would be where I actually do confirm this as the Bullish Hopium coming to life. Bullish Jesus has risen again, and I would actually confirm a major macro bear trap in this case with targets up towards the deep 50s. That would confirm obviously this, or be the initial etchings of this being, of course, an ascending triangle that does have a technical target, basically between about $56,000 to $60,000, and would also initiate many other things along the way as well if we do align this with the volatility versus momentum chart over here. Again, remember, there is very, very likely a 45% or probably even more than that, to be fair, move coming in the next couple months. I'd imagine we still have yet to see the actual volatility expansion from this region, but again, for the last 6 times, or basically for most of the times in Bitcoin's history, we've seen them the 5 days BBWP measuring volatility in the teens or lower. The expansion phase from there has been a pretty big move, like 45% on average over the course of the next just over about 40 days. So in the case of resolution to the upside, which we don't have just yet, we need to see this actually expand, so get a positive slope and above the moving average, and consistently above there for at least a couple closures. Then that would imply moves back up towards basically 60,000. To the downside, obviously 25,000, but we're just going to ignore that for right now. Anyways, the reason why I'm calling this out is because if Bitcoin were to initiate those moves, you will notice over here on the 5 days stochastic momentum, which when combined with that BBWP read, has been incredibly consistent in getting the macro direction for that move correct, will turn up. It'll turn up above 45,550 actually, but it will turn up, and it'll actually hold in the bullish control zone here as well. Until then though, risk does remain lower, and I don't want to be beating the Hopium drums too hard here. Again, I want to be as deliberately clear as possible that I do think that Bitcoin's a lot more likely to trade sideways, probably even bounce here, again. But ultimately, I do think that Bitcoin very likely does come down, first to 37.5, then 35 to 34, and then probably 29 to 30, and then, maybe gets that flush out towards 25 or so over time. Now, can I be wrong about this? Yes, of course. We've gone over validations and invalidations for this idea, but until that happens, I will be, I just look at the probabilities as more relevant towards downside until proven otherwise. So with all of that in mind, we are 9 minutes into this video. Is there anything else that I want to reference over here? Yeah, we can go reference this as well. How am I going to put a bullish twist on this for the global open interest? Invert it. No, I can't even do that on this. Again, if I wanted to offer up a little bit more of a reasonable way to be looking at this, I really would not be looking at price action as reset until we see open interest on the global scale at least down around 11 billion. I think minimum 10 billion would be a little more comforting. That has been where Bitcoin has put in a lot of macro pivots actually. And below there, I'd actually look at that as kind of icing on the cake, as we have seen it as low as about 5.25 billion during last year's summer lows, when Bitcoin was at about 30,000 bucks or so. Obviously, naturally over time, this the base on this is going to rise up on a maturing asset, but if I just wanted to kind of set an alert right here for something to kind of aware me as to, hey, we might actually have at least a major pivot, at least a major bounce incoming, but potentially even a macro low, I'd go over here and I'd actually want to have an alert for when open interest is around about 10 billion, which you can do on the Krown chain application. Again, that is found for free in the link description below. Other than that, funny rates, they are 0% and ever so slightly positive on the short term. So we're just going to ignore that. Again, it's not good. If it's not bullish, we ain't fucking talking about it. Leverage ratio at all-time highs, but I don't know how much I trust that, to be fair, just because people are taking coins off exchanges, so naturally that number will go up. But typically hasn't been the best thing in the past. And then also fear and greed index is low, so everyone's fearful, right? So buy when there's fear in the streets, or whatever. Buy when there's blood in the streets. The old Warren Buffett saying. But other than that, again, I want to reiterate my thoughts that this is kind of like the last line of hopium as far as I'm concerned for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin starts to close daily dollars below about 39,000 bucks, I would be looking for the next leg down somewhere within the context of this blue box between about 37 to 37.5, and that would obviously put Bitcoin below the bottom side invalidation point at $38,000 on a daily closing basis. So again, kind of wrapping up this thoughts, as long as Bitcoin's especially below 45 and this is angled to the downside, risk does remain low as far as I'm concerned. Statistically speaking, it is more likely to happen. Potentially we don't hit all of those targets to the downside, but I would be angled towards the downside just in general. And by the same token, if Bitcoin can actually trade back above that region, this would be an extremely powerful signal for moves back up towards $60,000 plus, probably even just continuation towards new highs from there, to be fair. So with all of that in mind, I want to wish you a nice and healthy and happy Easter day. Or is it Easter? It's Easter Sunday, right? Yeah, it's Easter Sunday. You got Good Friday and then Easter Sunday. And then here in Finland, they have like a holiday on Monday as well. Either which way, whatever holiday that you might be celebrating, or if it's just like a regular Sunday to you, happy days. And we'll be back on tomorrow. I don't know if we'll do a live stream tomorrow. If things are like super slow like they have been over the weekend, then probably not. We'll wait until Tuesday. If things have like actually happened, then hey, yeah, we could definitely do that. So keep an eye on the 39,850 pivot for the short term. As long as Bitcoin's above there, I do think that short term hopium can still be ignited, if you will, on a daily closing basis. So with all of that said, take care and see you hopefully soon.